Hello, everybody. It's Brian, quantlabs.net. I've not done a podcast episode for a very, very long time. Priorities have taken over. It's basically, if you're on my email list, that's good. You can go to quantlabs.net/books to get the info there, or just on my YouTube channel at Quantlabs. Okay, so what's been going on for the last few months is a priority is I'm looking at moving off of my current website's platform. I've started that with them since day one. That's with WordPress. So this has really got nothing to do with finance or trading, but more technical. So anyways, what's been going on with WordPress is it's been pretty well a platform that was fairly popular for many years, probably the first blogging platform out there, open source, the whole 9 yards. But they've been mismanaging everything from the plugins to the themes, and if it's all badly coded, they don't play nice. It affects the speed of your website. It affects all kinds of technical and search engine optimization on a negative impact. So I think quite a lot of people are moving off of WordPress and they're looking for alternatives. So if you're like me, one of them, you might want to listen up. So as a good example, as you know, I wrote for Seeking Alpha. Their prime competitor, Motley Fool, Fool.com, they made the transition about 2 years ago to move off of WordPress because they were on it for quite a while. So 2 years ago, they've moved on to a platform called Wagtail. So this is the solution if you're technical. Wagtail is owned by a digital agency out of Britain called Torchbox, and they make money via implementing, designing websites for their customers, built off of Wagtail. Plus, they do training, so that's their source of revenue. But they created, and they're the owners and I guess the maintainers of that project, Wagtail, which is kind of an alternative to WordPress. And it's the most popular content management system, or CMS, on Python and specifically Django. And there's another one called Django CMS, which is other open source. But going back to Motley Fool or Fool.com, they transitioned from WordPress to this Wagtail. From what I've seen over the last few years, their traffic levels have jumped about 3 times. So they're up there. I'm not going to talk about Motley Fool itself, but they've done fairly well with this move. And I think it's because they're just getting better SEO results because of it. And it's a better, more positive impact. And the thing is with other clients that Torchbox has with Wagtail is Google Blog. So all the blogging done on Google is using the technology of Wagtail. The other big one, because they're British, is the NHS, the National Health Service. So Wagtail is not huge, it's not popular, but some big companies are using it from what I'm seeing and what Torchbox is saying. Anyways, so let me first talk about the other platform. So Django is really a platform for coders, okay, for web development. There's also Flask and Fast API. Fast API is coming up pretty fast in the job descriptions I've seen. And Flask is now going more, it seems to be in maintenance mode because of Fast API. So be aware of that. But the other platform, Django, is more just a crossover, like a WordPress or just another alternative to JavaScript. So let me give you my experience so far with this whole search. So I've been learning Django, DJANGO for the newbies. Also, there's another open source content management system, CMS, called Django CMS out of Switzerland. They call themselves an association, but they just don't have the resources to learn the platform. If they don't have the resources, you're just kind of going into a mode of guessing. And if you don't have the proper resources, you're going to really spin your wheels for probably months on end trying to get things working. That's where I ended up with Django CMS. So I just thought, okay, I'll have to force myself to learn this Wagtail, and that's spelled Wagtail. And it's a lot to it, but I found some good resources. The company, their documentation is not great. It's okay, but not great. But thankfully, there's other third parties out there that have books and stuff to do that. So, if one example I've been learning from, I think is probably the most logical if you're trying to do what I'm doing, replacing WordPress, look for a guy named Michael Yin, Yin. I think he's out of China. So it's Michael Yin for his books. And he's got some pretty simple ones. And the books are like 24, 29 US. And it's a pretty good deal for what you get. And that's the best resource I've seen. I think I can't remember his website, but just look for the guy. And when you look for Michael Yin, I don't know, just put in Wagtail or something in the same search query. So with that, you can also uniquely blend in or merge JavaScript projects, because I started the whole process back in November with JavaScript, and I have to tell you, I've really I just don't like JavaScript the way it's coded up. It's a scripting language, but I sort of have an appreciation with the Node and the like. There's about 3 to 4 different front ends for frameworks. There's Vue, Vue, Angular, React, and a few other ones that I'm probably not remembering, but React's the big one. If you search for jobs and on the web front, React is easily number one. And as it stands right now, yeah, you can merge React with a Wagtail into the same project on Django. But that or that author I told you has a couple examples. When it comes to web design and web development, you have to remember, if you're trying to build up traffic and an audience, your number one thing you have to look for is search engine optimization. It's going to be about, as you build up your site, that could be up to 2/3 of your traffic. If you go to SimilarWeb and look at any website, you'll see a good chunk of that traffic is going to be from search engine optimization, organic search, unless you do ads. So as it stands right now, what I can recommend is look at, just trying to gain my thought here. So yeah, search engine is the number one thing you need to get as a goal to grow your business. And it's got to be organic, because the organic is the most engaging, I guess you could get out there, even compared against social media or paid ads. So that's the best type of traffic to get, and especially the ones that opt in. That's pretty well your number one goal, is to build an organically built email list from people that find you through search engines. And obviously the big one is going to be Google. That's still about 90%. So the other goal here is social media. I find all social media is pretty well trash, depending upon your audience and your kind of product. But I just find if you're doing apparel, energy drinks, or something like that for younger people, yeah, I think social media is the way to go. In my case, that will buy my kind of product and take it seriously will be more older folks. So you reach them either through search engine results, or the number one, call it social media, is easily YouTube as well, because YouTube enables people to organically click on, if you have an email list or a collection or an opt-in page, you can use YouTube for that. Anything else is pretty well useless. Substack's pretty good as well with its own ecosystem. I think you can find traffic through that as well. So that will be maintained. Anyways, back to Wagtail. So one of the other key benefits of Wagtail, I think Google search engine spiders or bots prefer lighter weight websites. So WordPress, if you have a pile of junky themes and WordPress or WordPress plugins in there, you're not going to go very far, because I think the number one factor is the speed of your website. So being on a Django, which is much more lightweight, much more cleaner, and you own the code because it's open source that you're using, it's to your advantage. Again, only really coders are going to really take advantage of that. Plus, the other thing is they do have search engine packages within both Wagtail and Django. So you could take advantage of that with sitemaps and the like. And the other big thing that people don't quite get on Wagtail is it's really built for teams of content creators through blogs. And that's who Wagtail is really built for on the back end. It's very strong in that. And you can build out custom elements in the back end for administrator and users that post content. And as I said, a good example of that would be Motley Fool.com with all the articles that they post. And that's probably why they went with Wagtail, because that's a very, very strong feature of Wagtail, which is the back end for its users. So programmers and coders will miss out on that from that perspective. Because if they just look at the code itself, they just don't understand the real purpose of what Wagtail's for. So that's, and it's very similar to the model of WordPress. But as I said, it's cleaner, it's lighter, and it's easier to put in the components. If it's built in JavaScript, you can do that from other major front end JavaScript frameworks. React's the number one. It's done much cleaner too, versus just 100% in JavaScript with something like React. So that's another positive. And again, that Michael Ian, one of his books covers that, plus the server side for rendering to make it faster. As I said, that's a very high priority feature that the Google spider bots look for to rank. So that's that. So in terms of the ability for React, and let me just explain JavaScript from what I learned. JavaScript is a complete hornet's nest. It's one of the developers that I occasionally talk to. He says it's the Wild West. There's no standards. There's no nothing. That's why a lot of these websites get breached and hacked because they're not properly coded up for security. And it's just, there's no standards at all with JavaScript, whatever you use, very, very little. Whereas if you use something like Python's Django, there's a solid base there of features within the framework, and security is one of them. That's just built out of box. So it's less to worry about being hacked on it. So there's that. Obviously, I'm not saying it's 100% bulletproof, but it's probably more rigid and secure, more secure than something like JavaScript, if it's not properly coded up. So we have to keep all that in mind. That's pretty all what I wanted to tell you as well. Now, coming back to the website, it's going to be built out of Wagtail. When it will be released, I don't know. It's basically starting over. I mean, my website currently just has been pretty well gone from a couple of hundred unique visitors to barely a few dozen. So doing this right now with Wagtail is really not hurting my business at all because I'm pretty well non-existent as it stands. So there is that. As for the site as well, I'm only going to put simple blogs on there. It's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be, it's just the whole idea is to bring in opt-ins, email opt-ins, organic email opt-ins that people like something, they join my opt-in list. The thing is, I'm leveraging or will be leveraging Discord to build out the community. From what I'm seeing, Discord's probably the number one social platform out there that people join on their own. There's also Substack I'll maintain, and I'm still experimenting with the podcasting here because I can pretty well post anything I want or any topic and not be impacted on anything. People like it, they like it, but I'm not going to get punished for it. Whereas if you're on YouTube, run my surveys on YouTube, you have to stick to one topic and not deviate, talking about shampoo 1 minute and the next day talk about how to build a house. Just that's not how YouTube is anymore with the AI generated algorithms and stuff. Because if you experiment on YouTube, and you do a couple of searches, watch a full video on whatever, you'll see for the next day or two that you'll get pounded on your feed, videos on those topics. So that's where things are at. So you have to be known on YouTube for a particular topic. What is that topic? Well, I'm using Google's app called YT Studio. From what I'm seeing, people and the surveys indicate that they want to learn how to use creating strategies to get higher returns. I don't want to say profit because that's a bad word on Google and YouTube, but yeah, just to get higher returns and use those strategies. There's some videos that shown TradingView. It's still kind of popular, not as popular as I thought it would be. And I'm just trying to confirm if that's a popular platform people want to know about. And from what I'm seeing, it's an answer no. From what I'm seeing, it's mostly people want to learn about strategies from within Python. So, that's what I got to blog about more and do more YouTube videos on, and only those topics, because that's what people want. That's quite evident in what YT Studio is presenting me on searches on top of Google as well for Google search traffic. That's pretty well it. I want to just indicate, and I will be bringing out a new learning management system, open source, built in Django. It's going to be kind of more similar to a school, very similar announcements, students, professors. Obviously, I'm not going to go down that path, or expand it like a school, but I could if I want. And I also have the flexibility if I want to build out the equivalent of a Motley Fool, but I don't know. I don't think I'll be doing that as well, because as I said, you have to focus on one type of topic. And it's seeming to be where I used to be at with strategies and strategy hints and how those strategies are to be built out. I think the word algo trading is now considered very bad, no different than Forex or crypto. Also, the other bad word, obviously, and always been, is profit. And trading bots are another really bad term on Google. So you get thrown into a bucket of bad things, and then you basically go nowhere fast on Google and YouTube, because they won't amplify or distribute your content, be it on Google the search or YouTube. And you hear me say I'm not interested in all the other social media. As I mentioned, I'm talking about Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. All that is kind of useless now. If it doesn't generate traffic for me, and primarily generate email opt-ins, I'm not going to really waste my time on that platform. But that's about it. Just wanted to let you know what's going on, and we'll talk to you soon. So there you go. That's why I'm moving to Wagtail from WordPress. Over and out.